alive, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in our amazing world. And welcome to today's conversation for Shining the Light on Our Community. Just finishing the last little bit of techie stuff that keeps popping up on your computers. And with me today is the beautiful Eva, the wonderful and absolutely amazing Eva, who's joining us all the way to talk about elevating your consciousness is in your hands. And Eva, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for coming and say that I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because I really believe that elevating our consciousness is the foundation to life, is the foundation to our success, is the foundation to making everything in our life easy. All right, so like I said, I'm really excited. Once again, welcome. Let me introduce you a little bit, just a little bit. Then I'd love to know more about your story from you.
Okay.
So Eva, you're the founder and the CEO of the Elevate Institute, which is a cutting-edge, true holistic health practitioner firm. Definitely want to know more about that. Specializing in empowering overburdened adults, oh my God, to take charge of their body, their decisions, and their energy. And I love how you've written that, overburdened, because again, I think that's the pandemic. That every day we talk to people who, oh, it's so overwhelming, it's overwhelming and overburdening. And it's, to me, that is the pandemic.
Yes.
What a wonderful conversation. We might have to have part two. So tell us, Eva, I want to know about you and your life and how you got to know to where you are now. Like, how did your journey lead you to founding your institute, and what's it all about?
It's been an amazing journey of observing how out of alignment all categories of life can become when you don't know who you are.
Yes.
and and my life was reflecting that to me. By the time I was 20, I was told I was infertile and had all sorts of chronic conditions related to having autoimmune disorder. Um, that's an emotional out of alignment, and a what is my purpose out of alignment. Didn't even know what they were. So by the time I was 36, I had 30 diagnosable symptoms that doctors kept telling me there are no cure for. Had raised my two children, even though I was married. I chose poorly, and needed to divorce. I had our two children and divorced, and was raising them on my own with resentful help from people that I had not built positive relationships with. So all of that weighs on a person and creates an even greater level of difficulty. And if you talk about the normal part of life that can be overburdensome, it's when you don't know that you don't know that the result of your life is a direct reflection of not having that spiritual, emotional, and physical support. It was a journey of unfolding. So that's where it came from. I had to learn more about me and what I needed, and be a person of greater self-worth for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear you. I really hear you and agree with you. Again, so many people have very similar experiences. We go through life knowing, like we hear it all the time, loving yourself, but not really understanding the deeper meaning of it. Which includes, putting yourself first, which for a lot of people, especially women, is challenging. And then we've got, in today's world, the advent of all technology, which, in one way is making our life so much easier and bringing us so much closer. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't have met, we wouldn't be talking. but yet it's also taken us away from our true consciousness.
Well,
And
it's a good distraction, isn't it?
it's a very good distraction. It's an extremely good distraction. I remember when it was very easy to, to meditate for 4 hours a day. Yeah, sure, no problem. I can meditate for 4 hours a day. Now you're lucky if you meditate for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
There's so much distraction. So thank you about that and things like that. And what about your life? Can you share an experience from your life that guided you towards where you are now, towards embracing holistic practices? I mean, you've talked about, your marriage and everything else. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yeah, there was this little innocent thought, and come to find out it's a very Eastern and a very widely accepted thought, that if you give your body what it needs, it can heal itself.
Mhm.
And when you bring that idea to the allopathic programs that we have here in the States and also the UK, it's the hunt and kill method of healthcare, right? What is your symptom? And here's the pill to fix it. And I
Mhm.
didn't want medication because I just I knew. And if you give your body what it needs, the next question is, how do you know what it needs? And that journey required me to hit rock bottom
Mhm.
with seeking and what I call barking up the wrong tree for answers. And when I kept hearing the answer over and over again, apparently I'm very stubborn. I am Italian. I'm very stubborn. And what I kept hearing was, we can't help you. We don't know what's wrong with you from the doctors. Let's draw your blood. Let's see what's going on. Everything looks like it's in normal range. These ideas didn't match up. If it's in normal range, the normal range, why am I not feeling good? And part of not hearing that message for myself was listening to the expertise of the authoritarian figure. You're fine according to us, so you're fine.
Yes.
And I had to stop listening to them over myself. I was the only one living in this body. I knew things were not as what they should be. I needed to listen to that. And it was finally that moment when I said, I'm not getting my answers here,
Mhm.
and I'm slowly dying. And that was the realization. I need to take steps in a different direction.
Yeah. And what did you do? If I can ask, like, what were those steps? How did you actually listen to your body?
It took a little more discovery. So I often say, well, I had 30 different symptoms, and one of them was insomnia. So since I was blessed with insomnia, up at my 3 o'clock in the morning, I had my computer and I'm searching for answers. I'm looking for alternative medicine. And if you ever typed into any search engine alternative medicine, it's a little overwhelming. It's like all of these things that do this fad, do this trend, do this idea, and take this pill, and the miracles become, you know, uh, a plethora of overstated possibilities. So I was looking for natural healing, and I decided I'm going to type in alternative medicine practices that solve, and I put in all 30 of my symptoms. And it took a bit more digging, but I finally found this article that described how you would feel if your body was minerally depleted, out of balance, full of toxic metals, full of possibly inflammatories like unkilled viruses,
Mhm.
extra bacteria that's harmful to your body, living with parasites. Very scary words. People often do flushes and cleanses, and they think antibiotics kill off your viruses. And I was that way too. They don't.
Mhm.
So I wanted a way to get past it. And as I'm reading it, it actually matched the theme that I mentioned. Look,
Mhm.
if you give your body what it needs, it can heal itself. And it comes down to the stardust we're made of, the minerals that are part of our food. If we think about it, we're just a ball floating through space. We're part of stardust, and we're developed here. We originated from the earth, so therefore we must require what the earth has to offer. And if we're missing that gap between what our earth has that we need and how we're getting it, namely our food, something was amiss. And it described the possibility that, look, we can no longer get our foods at the high density and nutrition that we used to, because there's so many people on the planet and we're trying desperately as a collective to feed everyone. And it's just not working well. Ever since the development of the chemical age in the 50s, our nutrient value and density of our foods has decreased. And we know that scientifically, we've tracked it, we've looked at it, but somehow there's blinders to that set of scientists, to the nutritionists and these set of scientists and the doctors. They're not talking. And if there would be some sort of conversation, hey, we've got a problem over here, we're not able to get the nutrients. And then to the doctors, hey, these imbalances can create chronic illness and reduce our longevity. So maybe we should talk to each other. And I think that's what this article was conveying. And I went, this makes sense to me. And the steps were to follow my intuition that the logic was the answer, not so much the uncooperative and non-communicating parts of society that we think are authoritarian. So that's what it took. It took not listening to those who had the degrees. It took not listening to them because they weren't giving me the answers, and they were telling me, we don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. And your body knows.
Yeah.
Your body knows. It's just getting in touch with that and stuff like that. And that's why I love talking to you, because it's a very similar experience with myself, being born into this body with a genetic condition. And and I want to just really go ditto to everything that you said, because it's really true. We're not getting the nutrients that we used to. Food isn't food anymore. If you buy stuff from supermarkets, if you grow your own food or can get it from markets, it's a little bit different. But even then, all our soils are so depleted of what they used to be. And even organic things are still not what it used to be. And of course, our body's going to react, and in whatever way, if it's not getting its nutrients, which is really, I just want to honor you, really, truly honor you for taking that and for sharing your story. So first of all, thank you for doing that, but for taking those steps to really listen to yourself and to listen to your body, and not really, we can take advice from the medical profession to tell us what's wrong, but then how to cure it, how to solve it, I think our body knows how to solve it. So thank you. Love to talk to you about, the Carl Jung quote that you mentioned, that until we make our unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and we will call it fate, which is, again, so very true. But now, how do you uncover, or how do you help others uncover their unconscious patterns to transform our lives? And how have you done that?
This has been a personal hobby journey that turned into realizing I have gifts that need to be brought to market. And as I was healing my own imbalance minerally, I discovered that my spiritual gifts were turning on and fine-tuning and becoming more clear. Kind of remember the old radio dials? You had to get the the station just right, and then you could hear it, or you've got the aluminum hat on and hold the hand this way, and then you finally get the two. So I discovered that my clairs, my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, my clairsentience, all of my abilities started to twinkle, and I didn't know what to do with them. There's so many people that get to this juncture where they're sensitive. They can feel the presence of either an earthbound spirit or an angel or a guide, and they get scared and they shut down. This is information that's meant to help us. And I had to come to that place, but I kept all of that as a hobby. So for years, the hobby became, so the hobby was here as a percentage, and my mineral work was over here, a large part. eventually that slid over and the hobby became so big I could no longer ignore it. And here was the fun thing, that as individuals were coming to me for their symptoms, I've been in business now for 14 years, and I'm listening to people. What's going on in your body? They're describing to me the problems, the emotion, the stories. There's always stories behind all trauma. And for a lot of people, they haven't been heard. They haven't been listened to properly for a while. So I'm listening to them. And as I'm listening to them, I'm receiving information about their chakras being out of alignment, or there's a hole in their auric field. And I'm desperately trying to figure out what I'm seeing first, and then taking the steps to understand it on the side. And so, for example, I had a person that I was on the phone with, and she says, I'm so scared that I'm going to lose my job. And all I saw was red. And if you know anything about auric field or chakras, red is associated with the base chakra. Base chakra has to do with our security. So I started putting the two together and realizing that even if I were to find a way to rebalance these energies, unless we fix the emotional side, the thought that we have and the judgment we have on that thought, unless we can correct that, the way of thinking, there is no way to actually permanently restore that fear. So this is just an example. You can go up and down the scale of our main chakra center. You can go in and out of the different levels of our auric field. And it's the same thing until we come to a place where we understand that holistic, what's causing this allowance? Why is this here? Same thing with the physical body. I realized that the physicalness, our physical symptoms, reflect oftentimes a emotional or spiritual imbalance that needs to be addressed. So I then had to take all of this work that I was doing as a hobby and roll it in to the mineral balancing work, which I now call ascension. So it's the whole aspect, the full spectrum of true holistic healing is now a part of the work that I offer. And the steps were so itty bitty, bite-sized little pieces. Spirit would give me information and I'd say, great, what am I supposed to do with this? And they'd go, you'd see, you're going to see.
Come later. No, I want to know.
I'll tell you later.
Come later, and at the right time, you'll see.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's challenging, but it's fun. It's like, no, I want to know everything now. Want to know the secret to the universe, to everything now. No, you're not ready yet. Okay.
Yes.
Like, and it's true. We don't realize even not the littlest, but the minerals, we think that they're insignificant. That's the word. But how much effect that it makes on us, both physically and spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah. Well, I noticed this beautiful aspect that the more mineralized I was, and the more the toxic metals and the heavy metals were being automatically removed from my body. I didn't have to use flushes or cleanser or chelation therapy. This is a displacement process. It's very painless and easy on the body. So as I discovered, I was becoming more fortified with minerals. The body now has the conduits and the attachment points for the energy to run through it. You can't run high energy healing if you're full of toxic metals. You just can't. You're staticky, you're off. The station won't come in. Yeah. So it became vitally important. If I want to be a healer, if I want to help people fully and utilize all of these gifts as they continue to come in and I continue to grow and learn and expand with them, I have to stay in integrity and make sure that my body is clean.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. And are these the 3 keys that you've mentioned that we can use to ascend to the next version of ourselves?
Yeah, the 3 keys, usually there's some level of imbalance on one of those 3 pieces. And it's either going to be the physical body through a metal or a virus or something that's running rampant that we don't know about, and it's blocking us from what's next physically. Or it could be something in a relationship. And think about it. People often, they come to me for relationship help, and this would be what I call the essential love work. Self-love, right? This is what we started with. You've got to have the sense to know who you are. And that's the biggest relationship. People come to me, oh, I want to find my soul partner. Great. We're going to find the soul partner within you first. So that's 2. And then the third one is the restore work. And this is really digging in on ancestral wounds, core wounds, life lessons, getting anything out of the way that is severing your connection with higher self and source that keeps you from hearing your own messages. Because the last thing I want is people to be dependent upon me to receive message for them. They need to develop their own. And every human has that sovereign right and ability. You just have to learn it. And like I did. So I teach that in the restore, as well as clearing anything like a hex, a curse, a spell. What has England been so scared of for centuries? Witches. And guess what? They're still out there. They're still doing work. And so I clear that.
Of course they are. Yeah, which is wonderful. It was only yesterday we had a panel discussion on healing those witch wounds that that we all carry, and and yes, there are witches out there in all forms. In all forms. One of our tribe hosts calls herself the Rich Witch, and she's absolutely amazing. Thank you. So how do you integrate your spiritual practices and your holistic health practices into your day? Tell us about your day.
My day. Yeah, I know that when I'm getting ready to help somebody restore their sovereignty, whatever that is, my relationship with my higher self, my assigned guides, my loved ones, my elemental beings that are here to assist, all of angels, my relationship with them is what makes the healing happen. It's not me. I'm just the clear conduit. So I'm constantly in that state of keeping that purity. It's like, okay, the body's pure, the emotional state's clear, keeping my practices with that is, am I constantly looking in the mirror to make sure I'm not being judgmental, but curious instead. These are important. My spiritual practices require me to keep what I call the sticky spots away. Guilt, shame, and fear. These are the big 3: guilt, shame, and fear. A lot of people are taught this by family, friends, obligations, religion, all of the things that we love, but it lowers that self-worth again. And the self-worth problem is what attracts demonics and elemental attachments. So this is part of my own journey. What I'm doing and what I'm preaching, I must do. Otherwise, it won't work. And when I hear a person say something, when we start a session, especially if it's for a house that's haunted and has who knows what else in it, they'll start with, oh, I'm really scared. Tell me what's going on. Oh, I'm not used to being in my home by myself. I'm frightened. We go from that, and an hour later, they're breathing such a sigh of relief for the clarity and the relief of not having those entities there. They actually have lost touch with the words that describe, I feel safe. I feel like I'm gonna have my own home again. I feel they don't have the words because they've been in fear for so long. And that, to me, that's a reflection. So my spiritual work, my personal work, and how I apply that to life, if I wasn't getting the proof, then I would know something is off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. We've got to look after ourselves and putting our own practices in first before we can help others. So thank you. Now, time is going by. We definitely have to have another conversation, Eva, but I've just got two more questions before we finish off, and that's I'd love to know more about your business, the Elevate Institute. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about the Elevate Institute?
I came to a decision when I was chronically fatigued that I did not want to be bound to my home. So this business is built so that I can be anywhere and you can be anywhere. And I have clients from Peru to Dubai, so it does not matter where you are in the world, I'm able to help. And everything is done remotely by phone or by Zoom sessions like this.
And what sort of things can you help people with? Like, now I know we've just talked about a lot, but, you know, if someone was saying, well, you know, I don't know, something's not right, but I don't know, can they still connect?
That's the best time to connect, because I don't expect anyone, after hearing even an involved conversation like this, where I've mentioned so many different examples, to know what I offer, and for a person to go to a menu and say, this is what I need. I offer a free call to sit down with, listen to what's going on, and create what I call a prescription plan, that goes through and says, all right, I feel like you have an entity. Let's clear that away first. Or we need to get your body cleared second, or whatever the order is. I'll be able to create a program from what I have already set up. So it's not like I'm making up things on the fly, but to be able to give a person a path forward. I'm the guide. And that's done with the free phone call. Can be found on my website.
Wonderful, which we will be putting in all your details as soon as we finish our conversation. So absolutely. And what message or insight do you hope that people who are listening to the live or the recording will take away from our conversation on how they can elevate their consciousness?
Listen to yourself first, because who you listen to is going to be the result of your life. If you listen to others and what they think is important for you, then you're going to be living your life through others.
Yes, so true. So true. You know, we're always, and I can't say we're always, but we have to be careful that we aren't living someone else's lives, or, you know, or relying, depending on other people for that. So thank you for that. All right. And one last final question is there any question that I could have asked you? And how would have you answered?
Oh, well, let's save that for another talk.
Let's come back and have part two. Any programs, anything in particular that you would like to share?
Programs. I mean, we've been talking about my Ascension program and whether or not it's right for you. You're going to have questions of your own, problems of your own. Bring them to me. I'll be able to honestly give you an answer. Will this work for you or not? And so I invite you to book that free call.
Absolutely. And we will be putting all those links in the comments very, very soon. Thank you ever so much. Truly, really, really, I've really appreciated it. I'd love to talk to you longer, but, you know, we try and keep our conversations around this time, but do come back.